Normally, when I make these videos, I'm the one telling you who I think the San Francisco 49ers should pick, but we are going to flip the script today. I'm asking you who you think the San Francisco 49ers should draft in the first round coming up this season. Now, I've pulled some names. I'm going to go through them. I'm going to give you some high level opinions of these specific players. And I'm going to let you decide. And that's where you're going to use the comment section below to let me know who you think the San Francisco 49ers should select in the first round. And notice I'm saying not selecting at 11, because if you believe the San Francisco 49ers should trade back, I also want to hear from you as well. And if you believe they should trade back, let me know the player they should take. Because if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I think that the 49ers should trade back and try to acquire as many top 100 picks as they can in this class. But could the 49ers go out and select a cornerback, Jade Barron? There has been a lot of smoke around the San Francisco 49ers taking a cornerback at number 11. There's been a lot of mocks. There's been a lot of talks about other cornerbacks that we will get to as well. But it kind of reminds me of the smoke around the San Francisco 49ers having interest in drafting a wide receiver at 31 last year. And, it kind of came up out of nowhere about 2 weeks before the draft. Everyone started mocking wide receivers to the 49ers, right? And then sure enough, they took a wide receiver. It just was a different wide receiver than was being mocked. We heard a lot of Lad McConkey. We heard a lot about Xavier Worthy, and the 49ers land on Ricky Pearsall. So does that smoke apply to a player like Jade Barron, who many believe is the best cornerback in this class? Maybe we shall see. Or does Will Campbell potentially slide out of the top 10 into the 49ers lap? To me, he is still my offensive tackle one, but I have him in the same tier as Armand Membo, who we'll get to in a little bit. But can Will Campbell be a guy that the 49ers take? And honestly, to me, this is a guy who kind of fits a perfect scenario of he could probably play right tackle, but if the 49ers were to draft him, he might actually be more of a benefit to play at left guard, to stay on that left side, and then be able to kick out to left tackle in the eventual and be the eventual successor to Trent Williams. I mean, who better to learn from Trent, and not only to learn from Trent, but to play next to him for a couple years and then just kick out? Because you have Colton McKivitz under contract next year. I think the 49ers are more than willing to put Colton McKivitz out there as the starter. So even if they were to draft Membo or Campbell, I don't think it guarantees that they're going to start at right tackle. So maybe that left guard spot could be of consideration. I like Mike Green on the field. There are questions about his character off the field. I can't speak to those things because I am not an private investigator. I don't know the details other than he's been accused of SA twice, and that obviously is going to create a lot of pause um, in potentially pursuing this player. So obviously you have to mention that, but he is a very, very talented player. He is uh, very fast off the edge. And the 49ers have seen him up close and personal at the Senior Bowl. So, do they have enough information to feel comfortable that, the alleged allegations against him are just that? They're alleged. Not He hasn't been charged of anything. So obviously that's a conversation. But again, the 49ers could just see any semblance of any off-field character concerns and just say pass. So it is something that you have to take into consideration when evaluating these players, what they do on the field and what they do off the field. On the field, I believe Mike Green could go at 11. Off the field, that is a completely different situation that I am just personally not qualified to discuss, but I feel like I would be doing a disservice if I didn't mention it because it is part of his draft profile. Now, getting back onto someone who is highly regarded in this draft class is Armand Membo. Like I said, he's on the same tier of Will Campbell, in my opinion. They are very good offensive linemen, and they're good in different ways. Membo is very fast. He has extremely good talent or technique, and he has quick feet, good base. Um, Campbell has a good base as well and good feet, which is why I think he can play tackle at the next level. But Campbell has way more power than Membo. So that's for me, the differentiator between the two. Membo, a little bit more finesse, definitely fits the outside zone mold offensive lineman. Whereas Campbell, I think he can play in both, but he could also play a lot of gap scheme and be super successful at that. So it's just kind of what your preference is for offensive line, but both of them are very good in their own right. Linebacker Jihad Campbell, some believe is the best middle linebacker prospect in this class, one of the safest prospects in this class. Could be a guy, I don't know if 49er fans would have any hesitation considering the fact he's an Alabama linebacker. And we typically know that, some 49er fans will carry over, past experiences to the next. So you see Alabama linebacker, you might think of Reuben Foster, and that might be enough for people to say no. But obviously, if you are truly evaluating the player, that isn't even a consideration to you. But it is something that comes up quite a bit. Now, maybe the 49ers could go with defensive lineman Kenneth Grant. He's a guy who's going to be an interior defensive tackle, can play from 0 tech to the 3 tech. I think that's where he's going to find his home. He is a pretty stout guy who could probably, I think he's a 3-down defensive lineman. And I think that's what the 49ers are looking for their next interior guy. So he could be an option. Wide receiver Tet McMillan. To me, I love him as a wide receiver. I think he's phenomenal. He's been getting knocked throughout this process. But I have, I mentioned the way that I came about him was I was scouting Jacob Cowing on film last year, and I was like, who is this guy? This looks like the most Mike Evans wide receiver I have seen since Mike Evans came out of Texas A&M. So I'm very high on Tet. I think a lot of people might be souring on him for whatever reason. But I think he is a very quality wide receiver, and it'll be fascinating, especially with the kind of, the Brandon Ayuk news that maybe he won't be back until, mid-year next year. If that would, if the 49ers would spend early on a wide receiver. Defensive end Shamar Stewart, obviously one of the biggest risers, and also one of the most polarizing prospects because he has arguably some of the worst production on the field out of any of the top prospects. However, he has some of the best measurables. And as we've seen in the past, there are players that have had fantastic measurables, tested well, ran well, jumped out the building, did all that stuff, but they just never transferred to being football players. So that is one of the considerations. However, you have to mention he did have a really good Senior Bowl week, and that was because of what he was doing on the field. So he's kind of I think fans or teams are going to have to really do their homework and feel really comfortable with the player in order to justify his lack of production in college. Cornerback Will Johnson. I started taking a look at him. He's just a phenomenal athlete, and he clearly has a real knack for playing the position. He's extremely comfortable at, reading quarterback's eyes, making jumps on the ball, getting interceptions and things like that. So he could be an option for the 49ers. Again, back to the cornerback smoke potentially for them. So maybe he could be an option. We'll see. Wide receiver Matthew Golden has earned a lot of hype throughout this process. He's very fast. He's a really good wide receiver. Some have put him ahead of McMillan as the best true wide receiver. Obviously, you have Travis Hunter in there, who's got a weird kind of eval. Is he a cornerback? Is he a wide receiver? I don't. We're gonna have to figure that out. But Golden is a pure wide receiver and a good one at that. Linebacker, defensive end, Javon Walker. He's a very intriguing prospect. A lot of people don't know how to kind of quantify him because he plays all over the place. Plays middle linebacker, rushes up the middle, rushes off the edge, plays defensive end. So there's a lot of, options for him. But, when I look at him, he reminds me a lot of Hassan Reddick. And if you recall, Hassan Reddick, they didn't know what to do with him. Was he a middle linebacker? Was he an edge? He's too small to play edge, so we got to put him at middle linebacker. Great athlete. We just don't know where to put him. His measurables don't translate into being a linebacker or an edge player. And sure enough, the Cardinals drafted him as and used him as a linebacker, ultimately for him to find his most success rushing off the edge. So that's kind of where I look at Walker. To me, I like him best as an edge rusher, even though he's 6'1", a little bit under 250 pounds, but it's almost identical measurables to Hassan Reddick. So that's kind of my comp for him. Defensive tackle Walter Nolan. This is a guy that I've been high on throughout the process. I think he is a high upside player. I've heard that there are some character concerns regarding his effort on the field. I personally haven't seen anything with my own eyes. I just know that is out there. And so obviously I think that is, worth considering when you have to make a decision. But the talent is there. He's very talented. Defensive lineman. He's a little bit smaller, but watching him at the Senior Bowl really proved to me that he can be a 3-down defensive tackle, take on double teams, be a factor in the run game, and also rush the passer. And then you have another guy who has similar questions about his character and effort and things like that. But we do know that James Pierce Jr. is one of the most athletically freakish players in this class. And could he be an option? Could the 49ers maybe see beyond some of the things that he's been tagged with and see that he has got a lot of upside? He's got, I would say, your prototypical size and speed for the new kind of era of edge players. So I think that's the thing that they just have to weigh out, but he's a phenomenal player. And then defensive tackle Derek Harmon is a guy that is definitely gaining some traction as being a guy who could potentially be the pick at 11 for the San Francisco 49ers. So we'll see if that is the case. He's kind of all these defensive tackles that I've listed are all very similar. All three down defensive tackles, all can do it in the run game and do it in the passing game. They are also guys that are gifted and have really good first step get off and technique. So obviously I didn't list Mason Graham here just because it feels like I don't know if he's going to slide out, but these are some of the options that I see, and I'm just really curious of who you would take if you had the opportunity to pick one of these guys. So let me know in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.